Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the elimination method. So let's kind of review what we've already learned. So there's 3 different ways to solve systems of equations. The first way is graphing, and then we find the point of intersection, right? So if we have something like this, let me draw this in a different color. So if we have maybe a line like this, and maybe a line like this, then this point is your point of intersection, which is your answer, right? That's why parallel lines have no solution, because they'll never intersect. Okay, so another way to solve systems of equations is by substitution. That's where you substitute, you get one variable alone. So get one variable alone and plug into other equation. I'm going to put EQ for short, okay? So like y equals 3x and I don't know, 4x plus 3y equals 7. And then you take this and you substitute this piece in for y, right? Because y equals 3x. So wherever I see y in the next equation, I'm going to plug in 3x. So 3y means 3 times 3x equals 7. So 4x, you know what, I'm not going to keep going. But I just wanted to show you. So, and so on, right? So, but I just wanted to remind you that's what substitution is, that's what graphing is. The third and final way we're going to talk about when we're solving systems of equations is elimination. So this is number 3, okay? So see how we did 1 over here? So we did 1, 2, this is the third one, okay? So elimination is a method for solving systems of equations by adding or subtracting to eliminate a variable. By adding or subtracting to eliminate a variable. So an eliminate means get rid of. Okay, so let's take a look at, so elimination method, a method for solving systems of equations, is it supposed to be an S there? By adding or subtracting to eliminate a variable. So step 1, let's look at the steps. Make sure the equations are lined up. That's really important. You have to make sure the equations are lined up, and we'll talk about that. Then we're either going to add or subtract the equations to eliminate the variable with common coefficients. Coefficients is a fancy word for the number in front of the variable. So if you don't know what that means, number in front of variable. For example, 3x. So this piece, this 3, that's your coefficient, C-O-E-F-F. I'm just going to say coefficient, okay? So coefficient is the number in front of the variable. For example, 3x, the 3 is a coefficient, not the x, just the 3. So it says add or subtract the equations to eliminate the variable with common coefficients, and you're going to see what that means again. I'm going to show you guys what all this is. So then you're going to solve for the remaining variable, substitute your answer into the original equation, and solve for the other variable. So let's go through these steps. So let's start with step 1. Step 1, and we'll do number 1 while we're looking at step 1. It says make sure the equations are lined up. They are. y equals 3x plus 4, y equals x minus 2. The y's are lined up, the x's are lined up, and then the numbers are lined up. That's what it means by lined up. So step 1, we're done. Step 2, add or subtract the equations to eliminate the variable with common coefficients. So which ones are the same? Y and y, 3x and x, or well, actually we're only looking at the variables. So which one of those are the same? Well, both the y's, right? Those are the same. So we're going to be able to eliminate the y. That's the variable we're going to eliminate. So when we add down, we're going to get rid of the y here, or we're going to get 2y. We're going to get 2y. Y plus y is 2y. So instead of adding down, we need to subtract the bottom equation because we need a negative y to get rid of that. Okay? So in this case, the top equation stays the same, and my bottom equation is going to have a negative distributed to each piece. So my new bottom equation is negative y equals negative x plus 2. All I did was distribute a negative to each piece. And my top equation is y equals 3x plus 4. Now do I have two of the same variables here, so y and y, but one's negative and one's positive. That means if I combine them, like if I were to add down, what's negative y plus y? 0. So this whole thing turns into a 0 equals, and then what's negative x plus 3x is 2x. 2 plus 4 is plus 6. So now I'm just going to see how I'm just left with one variable now? So our goal of elimination is to eliminate one variable so we can find what that variable is. So we got rid of the y, and now we're going to solve for x. So minus 6. So negative 6 equals 2x. Divide by 2. X equals negative 3. Okay? I don't know if you guys can hear that. My dog was barking like crazy. Okay, so x equals negative 3. Now we have to find y. So we do the same thing. We've already done substitution. For substitution, you'd plug x in to find y. You do the same thing. I'm just going to choose the top equation. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to plug in 3 for x. So y equals 3 times negative 3 plus 4. Y equals negative 9 plus 4. Y equals negative 9 plus 4 is negative 5. So my answer is x comma y. Okay. Let's do the same thing. So step 1, make sure the equations are lined up. We have our x's, our y's, and then our numbers. So the equation's lined up. Add or subtract the coefficients to eliminate the variable. So we're going to look, if we added down x and x, are those going to cancel? No. So we have to subtract the bottom instead of add. So we need to subtract the bottom here instead of add, because if we added down, x plus x is 2x. We need x to cancel out, right? The coefficient, or the number in front of x, is 1. So the number in front of this x is 1, the number in front of this x is 1. So if we add down and they canceled, we need 1 to be a positive 1 and 1 to be a negative 1. So I'm just deciding to subtract the bottom one. So I'm going to keep this guy the same. I'm going to say x plus 4y equals 13. And I'm going to make all of these negative. So negative x, and then right here, negative times a negative y is a positive y. And then a negative times a 3 is a negative 3. Now if I add down, do these cancel? Yeah, what's x minus x? 0. So we're going to add down here. 4y plus y is 5y. 13 minus 3 is 10. Divide by 5, and you get y equals 2. Now I'm going to plug in. That's my next step. So it says the step 3 is solve for the remaining variable, then substitute into the original equation and solve for the other variable. So y equals 2, we're going to plug that back in. I'm going to use the top equation, x plus 4y equals 13, and I'm going to plug y as 2. X plus 4 times 2 equals 13. and I'm going to solve. That's 8. If we subtract 8, x equals 5. So my answer is always x comma y, 5 comma 2. That's it. Number 3. So do you see how if we add down, do you see how both of these are positive? So instead of being able to add down and both of them, if I added down right now, 3x plus 3x is 6x. I don't want that. I need them to cancel. And see how the coefficients are the same here, 3 and 3? So we know that's why we're going to get rid of the x's. 10 and 9 are not the same, negative 10 and negative 9, so we're not going to get rid of the y's. We're going to get rid of the x's. That's going to be the easiest one. So that's step 1, is to make sure that they're lined up. X, y numbers, we're good. And then step 2, eliminate a variable. Are we going to add or subtract? We're going to subtract the bottom. That way it changes the sign. So this top one, I'm going to keep the same. And the bottom one, I'm going to multiply a negative to each piece. So negative times 3x is a negative 3x. Negative times, and this is always a negative 1, so I can write negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 9 is a positive 9y. Negative 1 times 15 is a negative 15. Now, if I add down, do my variables cancel? Yep, 3 minus 3, 3x minus 3x is 0. And then I have negative 10y plus 9y is negative 1y equals 14 minus 15 is negative 1. Divide each side by negative 1. Y equals positive 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. Okay, what's the next step? Plug in. So I'm going to use my top equation. It doesn't matter which one you use. And I'm going to plug y equals 1 in for this. So 3x minus 10 times 1 equals 14. And I'm just going to solve for x. So 3x minus 10 times 1 is 10 equals 14. Add 10 to each side. 3x equals 24. And if I divide by 3, x equals 8. So my answer is x comma y. Okay, I want you guys to try 4. I'm going to show you 5, and then I want you guys to try 6. Now watch number 5. Number 5, do I have two? Okay, first of all, the x's, the y's, and the numbers, they're all lined up. That's good. It's the first step. Could I cancel these right now if I add down? I could, couldn't I? So this is even easier. If one's positive and one's negative, that's going to cancel out. So I'm left with 7 plus 9, which is 16y, equals 11 plus 5 is 16. Divided by 16. Oh my gosh, you guys, look how easy this is. Y equals 1. See, when they're negative already, you can just go straight from there. Now I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to use the top equation just because I feel like it. You can use the bottom equation if you like. You'll get the same answer. Okay, I'm going to plug that in there. 4x plus 9y equals 5. I just found out that y is 1. So 4x plus 9 equals 5. Minus 9. 4x equals negative 4. Divide by 4, and x equals negative 1. So if I'm going to write x comma y, negative 1, 1. X comma y. Okay, you try number 6 and number 4. And then, okay, notice how on this page there was common coefficients, meaning if you looked at any one of these, x and x, 3x and 3x, even though we had to multiply a negative 1, 2y and 2y, 4x and negative 4x, that was easy, crossed out, right? So all of these have common coefficients. The number in front of the variable, like right here, those 2's, they're the same. You need to make one negative and one positive, but they're the same, right? But what if there are no common coefficients? So what if there are none of the same numbers in front of the variable? In this case, we're going to multiply one or both equations by some number to create matching or opposite coefficients. Sorry if the pencil is really loud, like this Apple Pencil thing. I've tried, I've even looked up ways, whoa, hang on, obviously I can't spell and talk at the same time. I don't even know if that's right, coefficients. Okay, I think so. So, I tried looking up a way to make it not so loud and annoying, because it's like it ticks on the screen, but there's no way, so I'm really sorry if that bothers you. I tried to remember to write light. Okay, multiply one or both equations by some number to create matching or opposite coefficients. Okay, this is what that means. Let's look here. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure the x's lined up. Are the x's lined up, the y's lined up, and the numbers lined up? Yes. The x's, the y's are on one side of the equal sign, and then the numbers, right? So they're all lined up. That's the first step. The second step, if we don't have any common coefficients, because look here, we have 2x and an x, okay, those aren't the same. This is a 1x and a 2x. 7y and 3y, those numbers aren't the same. So we need to multiply either one or both of these equations so they have the same number. So I'm going to make the x's match. How would I make the x's match? What do I have to multiply this by to make it match this number? A 2, right? If I multiplied this by 2, wouldn't that be a 2x? But because I know when I add down, I need to have these cancel, I'm going to think ahead of time, and I'm going to multiply it by a -2. Because if I multiply it by a -2, I know that these will cancel, okay? But I can't just multiply that x, I need to multiply every piece. So I'm going to, just like when you multiplied that negative on the other page, you need to multiply to every single term, you have to multiply the 2 to every term. So this now turns into -2x. -2 times that 3y is -6y equals -2 times 6 is -12. And then the bottom equation is 2x, the same thing. We didn't change anything. -7y equals -1. Now I'm going to add down. Do I have variables that cancel? Yes. -2x and 2x, those cancel. So that's a 0. So I'm left with -13y equals -12 minus 1 is -13. Divide each side by -13. And y equals +1. Now I'm going to plug in. I'm going to use my top equation just because I feel like it. Doesn't matter which one you use. Plug in y is 1, so x plus 3y, I just solved, was 1. So x plus 3 equals 6, x equals 3. So x comma y is your answer. So my answer is x comma y, 3 comma 1. Not too bad, I hope. So let's do number 2. Okay, are they lined up? 9x and 2x, 3y and y. So the x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, and the numbers are lined up. So that's good. That's the first step. Second step, we're going to see if we need to multiply anything. Do we have any common coefficients? 9 and 2, those are not common. 3, and this is a 1 in front of that y. 3 and 1, those are not common. So I need to multiply to get rid of one of the variables. I'm going to get rid of my y. That's my easiest one to multiply. If I tried to multiply this, could I multiply 2 by any number to get 9? No, unless it was a decimal. So I'm going to multiply this number, this equation, by a -3, because I want these to cancel. So I need this to be a -3 in order for those to cancel. So I'm going to multiply each term by -3. This top equation stays the same. This bottom equation is multiplied by a -3. So -3 times 2x is -6x, Negative 3 times y is negative 3y. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. If I add down, do I have something canceling? Yeah, these y's here are going to cancel now. 3y minus 3y is 0. So now I'm going to do 9x minus 6x is 3x equals 12 minus 15 is negative 3x. Oops, no it's not. It is negative 3. Divide by 3. So x equals negative 1. And then I'm going to plug that in. We use the bottom equation this time. So if I use the bottom equation, I'm not going to use the one multiplied by negative 3. I'm going to use the original. And I'm going to plug this in here. So 2x, x is negative 1. I'm going to fill that in. 2 times negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Plus y equals 5. To get y alone, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So y equals 7. So x comma y. My answer is negative 1, 7. All right. Okay, I want you guys to try the next 3. And raise your hand when you're done with all 3 of these and 4 and 6.